In the Fallout universe, we find countless items, weapons, armor, pieces of technology, and even architecture that are all grounded in reality, or at least grounded within the fictional post-apocalyptic sci-fi reality of the Fallout universe. The way they work, the reason they're there, they're almost always explained. But there are a few things that have no explanation. Some of them are completely irrational, exhibiting powers that border on magical. Some of them have no power, but their presence is just very strange, and their existence almost demands an answer. Let's go over some of the stranger artifacts that can be found in the Fallout universe. Now, with literally thousands of items, some legendary, some not, some overpowered, some not, categorizing something as an artifact is really going to be a matter of personal preference. I decided to make myself some ground rules. The first is that it needs to be one of a kind, or at least extremely rare in the Fallout universe. These aren't going to be items that we see from game to game. You can't just slap a legendary effect on something and boom, it's an artifact. Next, it needs to be old, at least pre-war. This excludes the mysterious serum that we get from the Cabot House quests, as well as the Zeta gun and Lorenzo's artifact gun, because we see all of those being made during the quest. But most importantly, in my opinion, its existence needs to be unexplained by the rules of the universe as we know it. This disqualifies many other items that otherwise might be considered artifacts, like Vicky and Vance's outfits from Fallout New Vegas, Button's wig, Lincoln's repeater, his hat, his voice, and other such artifacts from Fallout 3, or Paulson's getup and the samurai outfit from the Mothership Zeta DLC to Fallout 3. All of those are old, they're one of a kind, but their existence can be explained. They make sense in the world. With that in mind, we'll start with Lorenzo's crown. Lorenzo's crown is worn by Lorenzo Cabot in Fallout 4. Lorenzo himself is an extremely old individual. He was already an adult, exploring ancient ruins in the year 1894. It was while excavating the lost city of Ubar in a giant desert that Lorenzo found this mysterious crown.
He only made a single expedition to the lost city, but he brought back enough to show beyond a doubt that the city he found wasn't made by or for human beings. Millennia older than the earliest human civilizations, but with technology that seems to have surpassed our own. And yet, everything about it is strange, disturbing geometries, tools not made for human hands, carvings that hint at dimensions beyond our own. He believed that all of the earliest human civilizations shared some common parent that was unknown to history. Eventually, he found what he was looking for: a lost city, buried beneath the sands of the empty quarter of the Arabian desert. Well, that was before the war, when he was a young man.
Lorenzo was looking for proof that there had been intelligent civilizations on Earth before humans existed, and he took this crown as evidence. His great mistake, however, was to put it on his head. It fused to his nervous system, granting him great powers like telekinesis and immortality, but at the expense of his sanity. While wearing the crown, he says that he feels like he can talk with members of this ancient, non-human civilization.
Through it, I commune with the ancient minds that founded our civilization. Whether they live within it, or it communicates with them through time or space, or whether it simply holds their memories, I don't know. What I do know is that it has widened my horizons beyond the tiny scope granted to normal men. I spent my long captivity exploring the memories of the ancients, their arts and sciences, their philosophy and worldview.
Having spent years communing with the spirits of this lost world, he now feels like he's a part of it. And the petty laws, morals, and ethics of humanity are now beneath him.
You really are insane, aren't you?
Perhaps, by the old definitions. But things have changed while I've been locked away. The old rules no longer apply. This new world seems to be one of limitless possibilities for people of our talents and inclinations.
Which is why he feels entirely comfortable committing atrocities in order to achieve his goals. Even if we kill Lorenzo Cabot, we can never loot Lorenzo's crown. It's unobtainable to the player character, and its provenance is still a mystery. We only have the story that comes from Lorenzo himself as to where it came from. But clearly there is something inhuman about it, as evidenced by the real power that it grants to Lorenzo. Next up is Shem Drowne's sword. At first, one might think that this is a simple revolutionary sword with the irradiated legendary effect. But it's not that simple, in part due to the way we find it. While doing the Gilded Grasshopper quest during the events of Fallout 4, we learned that Shem Drowne was a coppersmith who crafted the Gilded Grasshopper stuck atop the roof of Faneuil Hall.
The guy was a coppersmith, way back when folks did shit like that.
Shem crafted it in 1742, but it fell off the hall during an earthquake in 1755, or 1753, maybe? And it was reattached to the rooftop of the hall by his son, Thomas Drowne, in 1768. From this note that we find in the Gilded Grasshopper, we get directions to the grave of Shem Drowne. His son Thomas tells us that in the grave we'll find a life's worth. And when we exhume the grave, we not only find the bones of Shem Drowne, but we find Shem Drowne's sword. The ancient note that accompanies it describes it as being made from the Devil's Iron, an attempt by Shem Drowne to explain why this blade is radioactive. The sword is a revolutionary sword. It's made from iron, but Shem Drowne was a coppersmith. It's unlikely that Shem himself made this sword, so where did it come from? And why was he buried with it? It's possible to irradiate metals like iron with modern technologies, but none of those technologies existed during the time of Shem Drowne. It is possible for radioactive iron to exist naturally, but it's exceedingly rare. Most radioactive iron on Earth exists in deep sea deposits, which are difficult to mine today, making it nigh impossible for these deposits to have been mined during the time of Shem Drowne. But what's most interesting about the sword is that it does come with a legendary effect, but it's a completely unique one. Not only does the legendary effect look unlike the irradiated legendary effect, but the radiation effect on the weapon doesn't act like the irradiated effect, because it not only directly inflicts radiation damage, but it also inflicts a radiation damage over time effect, acting like a poison. And this is the only weapon in the game that does this. And since it was buried with Shem Drowne, it's been there for hundreds of years, which means the sword had this attribute when it was buried with him. There's just a lot about the sword that doesn't really make sense. Next, moving to Fallout Tactics, we can find a special encounter called Bazaar Day. In this encounter are a number of merchants, and from one, we can purchase the Devilthorn Jacket. The Devilthorn Jacket has a unique icon. The entire thing is red, and the stats of this jacket are off the charts. More powerful than any piece of armor in all of Fallout Tactics, including power armor. And I'm guessing because of this, we can't actually wear it. It's one of the most expensive items we can purchase from any merchant, and it can't be worn by any of our characters. We don't know anything about this. We don't know when it was made or who made it. But I can't imagine that a bunch of post-war scavengers would be able to craft a suit of armor that's better than power armor and isn't power armor. The name of the item and the unique styling of its stats in the Pip-Boy clue us into the fact that this is likely an Easter egg reference to Diablo. It imitates the look and styling of the Demon Spike coat from Diablo 1. However, here it is in Fallout Tactics. This isn't from a mod. It's in a special encounter that anyone can stumble upon at any time, which means it needs a lore explanation for existing, and there isn't one. It's just a mysterious artifact. In the Fallout New Vegas DLC Lonesome Road, we can enter the Cave of Abaddon. Inside, we learn the tragic story of Sunflower Summers, an idealistic pre-war protester who had a small request. She just wanted America to completely nuclear disarm. It's a sad tale, like many others we've discovered in the Wasteland, but here we also find a fossilized dog named Seymour. It has a weight of 0. It has a value of 0, but we can loot it. How did this dog get fossilized? If something happened in this cave that fossilized the dog, why didn't it also fossilize Sunflower Summers, whose skeleton we find lying right next to Seymour? We don't read anything about Seymour in Sunflower Summers' diary entry. Has Seymour the fossilized dog been standing here for 200 years, watching over his master like some sort of gargoyle guardian? Now, much like the Devilthorn Jacket, this also is a reference, and we only discover it if we have the Wild Wasteland trait. It is, of course, a reference to the episode of Futurama, Jurassic Park, where Fry's dog Seymour is found fossilized. Maybe I'm cheating a little bit by including Wild Wasteland stuff here. Perhaps those shouldn't count. There will be a few more. But Wild Wasteland is a real trait that any player can actually have, which means that canonically, people can exist in this world with that trait and stumble upon things like this. What are Wild Wasteland encounters? Do they just not exist in the real world unless you have that trait? Or does having that trait allow you to see things that do exist in the world that other people can't see? If that's the case, then it exists in this universe, and Seymour is an ancient artifact that has no logical explanation. Next, moving to Fallout 2, while exploring the world map, we can stumble upon a random encounter, where we find King Arthur and his knights fighting a vicious rat. This particular random encounter is actually broken in the published version of Fallout 2, though it was intended to be there. We can only access this random encounter thanks to fan patches that fix the broken scripting. Once fixed, and after killing the vicious rodent, we can enter the cave behind the knights, within which we find the Holy Hand Grenade. This weapon appears again in Fallout New Vegas. Like Seymour, this can only be discovered if our courier has the Wild Wasteland trait. But if we do, and if we explore the basement of the Eastern Church in Camp Searchlight, we find a crate on a table filled with 3 Holy Hand grenades. And on a box next to it, written in chalk, we find instructions. We must pull the pin and count to 5. 3, sir. 3. Obviously, this is a reference to Monty Python and the search for the Holy Grail.
Yes, of course! The Holy Hand Grenade of Antioch. Right. 1, 2, 5. 3, sir. 3.
And yet, here it is in the universe, in a special encounter in Fallout 2, and a Wild Wasteland event in Fallout New Vegas that anyone can stumble upon. Who made it? Where they came from? Why they're so much more powerful than typical frag grenades, all of that remains unexplained. Next up is Kremvh's Tooth. If we explore the pre-war marble quarry called Dunwich Borers and clear it of all of its raiders, we can navigate to the very depths, whereupon we find some startling, ghostly scenes. The marble quarry, owned by Dunwich Borers, LLC, was actually a cover for what they were really trying to excavate, because this marble quarry was directly on top of an ancient temple dedicated to dark, forgotten gods. Could the ancient civilization that built this temple be in any way connected to the ancient civilization that created Lorenzo's artifact? We don't really know. But at the very bottom of the excavation, we find an underwater shaft. And if we swim to the very back of it, lying on top of an altar is a unique blade called Kremvh's Tooth. This melee weapon acts a lot like a machete, but it does way more damage and has a poison and bleeding effect. It's completely unique in Fallout 4. In Fallout 76, existing machetes can be modified to look like this weapon. However, the modifications don't give it the unique attributes that this weapon has, making Kremvh's Tooth completely unique in the Fallout universe. Who is Kremvh? How long has this weapon been here? The blade of it looks sufficiently ancient, but the handle looks modern. The blade is affixed to the handle with bolts. The handle itself is wrapped in modern tape. Could this be a makeshift weapon that a devotee before the war created using sanctified metal that they found in this temple? We don't know. It remains an unexplained mystery. Next, in Fallout 2, while exploring the basement of New Reno Arms in New Reno, if we look inside a pot hidden amongst a bunch of crates, we find an Easter egg. Right. Okay, so it's an Easter egg. It's an Easter egg. I get it. But the Wasteland hasn't celebrated Easter for 142 years at this point. No one in New Reno is painting Easter eggs. So where did it come from, and how long has it been here? And why is it the only one in all of Fallout 2? Well, we get a partial answer in the Fallout Bible. There we learn from some of the developers of Fallout 2 that originally Fallout 2 was supposed to come with another companion called the chicken. And the chicken would have hatched out of this very Easter egg that we find in the pot in the basement of New Reno Arms in New Reno. This chicken companion was ultimately cut from Fallout 2, but the egg wasn't, which means it exists in this universe as an Easter egg that apparently can't rot and therefore is mysteriously unexplained. In Fallout Tactics, we have a chance to find something called a fantasy ball. There are only 3 in the entire game, 2 in Peoria and 1 in Junction City. The fantasy ball is a weapon. It's a thrown weapon. It looks like a ball with a bunch of spikes coming out of it, which is a rather impractical throwing weapon. But where did it come from? And who made it? The description of the item isn't very useful. Looks like a shiny metal ball, but it suddenly develops spikes in flight. This is another reference, and it's a really obscure one. It's a reference to the 1979 horror film called Phantasm. The antagonist of the film, the Tall Man, uses a weapon very much like the fantasy ball that we find in Fallout Tactics. So that's the reference, but again, we find it in the world. So what's its lore explanation? Sadly, we don't have one, making it a very strange pre-war artifact. Next, and what is probably the best example of a Fallout artifact that we have, is the Krivbeknih. In the Point Lookout DLC for Fallout 3, there's an entire side quest that starts with Obadiah Blackhall, where we are sent to retrieve the Krivbeknih.
A family heirloom of mine has been stolen. This heirloom, a book, has been stolen by those swamp folk cretins. Smash some heads, bring it back, get paid. The fools who stole it believe it has powers, so the thing is probably well guarded. There's a ritual site east of the boardwalk, in the basement of a ruined house. I think you'll find it there. Bring it back to me and be paid. They think the book has a kind of occult power. Superstition and nonsense, of course.
Where it originally came from, we don't know. But on a missionary's terminal in Point Lookout, we learn that its earliest provenance starts with Obadiah's ancestor, Constance Blackhall. She used the Krivbeknih to lead the nearby swamp folk in dark rituals before the Great War. but at some point it was stolen from her.
You mustn't bring it to him. That book is known as the Krivbeknih, and it's a thing of evil purpose. That book has been lost to the Black Halls for generations, and I intend to make sure it stays lost. Obadiah's no better than the heathens he's asked you to steal it from. He believes he can use it to control them, and God knows what else.
Many years later, it was discovered by a man who was traveling with his son, and this man tried to sell the book to the Brotherhood of Steel, but the Brotherhood wasn't interested. Fearing the book's dark power, he decided to return it to its original owner.
Even better, they saw Dad. He was in pretty rough shape and still has the goddamn book. Trader says it gave him the creeps. Me too. But it's good to know he's still alive, still headed south. I found Dad today. I didn't think it was him, but the face. The zombies didn't touch him. I think he was becoming like them. Didn't know it was him until I found that old book near him. No more killing. I just need to go. Can't forget the book. All I have left of him. It's warm against the stone. I'll just rest a while.
But presumably he failed, because somehow the book got into the hands of the swamp folk of Point Lookout. There, within the deepest chamber of a sacred cavern, the swamp folk use it as a focal point for their rituals and human sacrifice. Now Obadiah wants the Lone Wanderer to infiltrate this sacred cavern and retrieve the Krivbeknih. And if we do, Obadiah brings the book to his own basement and places it atop his own altar, strewn with human remains. Alternatively, we can follow the advice of Marcella, a missionary from a nearby abbey, who urges us to destroy the book by bringing it to the obelisk in the basement of the Dunwich building.
You must take up my mission. There is one way to utterly destroy the Krivbeknih, but you must take a pilgrimage far north of Point Lookout in the capital wasteland. Seek a place called Dunwich. Within is an obelisk, itself a wicked thing. It'll consume the book. You need only press the book to its surface.
She says that if we press the book against the obelisk, it'll burst into flames and become destroyed. Of course, we don't know which path the Lone Wanderer chose, but the big question is, what is this book? What is the dark power that it manifests? What is its connection to the Dunwich building? Who is Ugh-Qualtoth? This book is the gateway into the strange Lovecraftian-esque lore that we find in the Fallout universe, making it the tip of an iceberg that we will have to explore at some point in another video. But that doesn't stop it from being a strange, mysterious artifact. Then, in Fallout New Vegas, we find an evil gnome. Okay, well maybe it's not that mysterious, but hear me out. It's extremely rare. There are plenty of garden gnomes in Fallout 3, Fallout New Vegas, Fallout 4, Fallout 76, wearing their colorful hats and found all over the place. But there are only 2 evil gnomes in all of Fallout New Vegas, and there are none in any of the other Fallout games. So these evil gnomes were handcrafted for Fallout New Vegas. Why? One is found in Fireroot Cavern, and it's buried pretty deeply. It's pretty easy to miss. The other is prominently on display in the Lucky 38 Presidential Suite. It's weird because it doesn't have a gnome hat, revealing that it's mostly bald. The evil gnome is wearing dark glasses, and his face looks angry. Incidentally, the 2 evil gnomes have unique editor IDs in the game. The one in the cavern is called the Scotty Gnome, and the one in the Lucky 38 is called the Gaudy Gnome. Sure, they don't have any strange mystical powers, but I'm confused. What are they? Why are they there? Why are they evil? Are bald people with beards evil? Or is it the glasses that make him evil? Why did Mr. House have one in the Lucky 38? I have so many questions. It remains, to me at least, a very mysterious artifact. Next up is the Compliance Regulator. We find this unique weapon within the Fallen Rock cave of the Honest Hearts DLC to Fallout New Vegas. This is the cave where we find a lot of lore concerning Randall Clark, the survivalist, which I covered in a previous video. But the lore surrounding this weapon is minimal and strange. The terminal entries in this cave tell us that the Compliance Regulator was part of the gear that was left behind in this cave by the United States Geological Survey Agency after the bombs dropped in 2077. They were performing some sort of research in this cave and left hastily after the apocalypse, leaving the Compliance Regulator behind. But what is its purpose? Why did a geological survey team have it here? The name of the weapon and its function may be our greatest clue as to its purpose, because this unique energy weapon doesn't do a lot of damage. Instead, it can stun or paralyze enemies. A critical hit will stun enemies for a whopping 10 seconds. With high critical hit chance, we could even stun lock enemies with this weapon. The fact that it's a stun gun, combined with its name, the Compliance Regulator, leads me to believe that it was a pre-war tool used by American riot police as a non-lethal way to make rioters comply. But if that's the case, what is the United States Geological Survey Agency doing with it? There's nothing in this cave all these years later that gives us an answer as to why they needed a Compliance Regulator. So it's an incredibly unique weapon, it's one of a kind, it's extremely old, and to me at least, it has no rational explanation for being here, making it a rather interesting artifact. Next up is Danielle's book. While exploring Foggy Bottom Station, we find a lot of trash and scrap scattered all over the place, but on the floor next to a bench at the bottom of the station, we find a unique book called Danielle's Book. We can loot it. It weighs 1 pound, but we can't read it, and it's not involved in any quest. It's clearly a pre-war item. The cover is moldy and aged. It's been here since before the bombs dropped. But what kind of book is it? And who is Danielle? This question bothered me for so many years, but the answer to this question was recently revealed, thanks to the Epic Realms podcast, which is a fascinating podcast that I encourage you to check out if you're interested. I link to it in the description below. The Epic Realms podcast was interviewing Bruce Nesmith, one of the designers for Fallout 3, and he revealed the purpose of this book.
Are there any Easter eggs people haven't found that you're aware of?
If you go into Fallout 3 and you go to the Foggy Bottom metro station, my daughter Danielle at the time was enrolled at the university, which was on the Foggy Bottom train station. That's where you get off to go to that university. And so there's a Danielle's diary tucked under one of the benches there.
That's right. It was just an Easter egg that he put in for his daughter. His daughter was attending college and often read a book on this bench while taking the train out of Foggy Bottom Station, and he chose to remember her this way by placing Danielle's book at the foot of this bench. So that clears it all up, and yet that podcast isn't part of the Fallout universe. And within the rules of this universe, the existence of this book, like I'm sure so many other ruined books in the Wasteland, is unexplained, or rather its explanation was lost to the bombs. Finally, we've got the Solar Scorcher from Fallout 2. While exploring the world map, we can stumble upon the Guardian of Forever special encounter. The Guardian of Forever is a reference to the original Star Trek, but in Fallout 2, it does act as a real portal to the past. If we go through the portal, the Chosen One appears in Vault 13 shortly before the events of Fallout 1. While there, the Chosen One can accidentally break the water chip of Vault 13, which means that the events of Fallout 1 were put in motion by the ancestor of the Vault Dweller from Fallout 1 who would have never left the vault to create Arroyo had the chip not been broken in the first place. Time travel ruins everything! But on the ground, in the vault, we find a unique item, the Solar Scorcher. This weapon isn't in Vault 13 during the events of Fallout 1, or at least we never find it there. It's not in Vault 13 during the events of Fallout 2. Only in this time travel sequence, thanks to the Guardian of Forever, do we find this weapon in this vault, and it's unlike anything else in the Fallout universe. It's an energy weapon, but instead of using fusion cells, its ammunition is sunlight, which means that we have unlimited ammo for it. However, it also means that if we try to use it in dark environments, like caves or dark interiors, we can't reload it, because the ammo is the sun itself. Who made this weapon? Was it Vault-Tec? Was it West-Tec? We don't know. The description of the item isn't very helpful. Without the sun's rays to charge this weapon's capacitors, spelled incorrectly, this gun can't light a match. It says that the weapon has experimental photoelectric cells, but its provenance is unknown. Yes, it does have a passing resemblance to the phaser from the original Star Trek, which makes it likely that this may be an elaborate Easter egg, considering it was already found in a special encounter that itself was a bit of an Easter egg. And yet here it is in the world, and we have to be able to explain its existence using the rules of this world, making it an incredibly mysterious artifact. What do you think of this collection of rather unexplained, mysterious artifacts in the Fallout universe? Did you think some were a bit of a stretch? Are there others that you think are obviously artifacts that I should have included? And are there any that I list here that you think do have really good lore explanations? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. My 2026 thumbnail calendar is now available. It features 12 of some of the best thumbnail art that I commissioned for my videos in 2025. The wall calendar comes in 2 sizes, and the print quality is excellent, so snag your 2026 thumbnail calendar today. I'm constantly publishing new Fallout videos on my channel, so if you don't want to miss my next one, be sure to subscribe, and as always, thanks so much for watching.